Welcome to Yerba Mate Talks.
Hello, welcome to Sherba Mate Talks. We're going to be chatting here about changing our minds once again. We're going to go through our next chapter in How Minds Change by David McRaney. And then if anybody wants to go ahead and click that link and join and chat and try to change my mind about something, or if they would like to just discuss changing your mind, you're welcome to do that. We've already got a hot topic. Zumi, Five Guys fries at the best. The heat is coming early and often here in the chat today. Zumi, jump on and we can discuss what it would take to convince me that Five Guys fries are the best. What are my reasons for holding on to that? They're one of my worst favorite kind of fries. You are welcome to jump in and we can discuss it. Um, I could give you all my arguments of why they're bad, but I feel like it'd be unfair because you're not here to defend yourself. Oh, not able to jump on right now. Okay, well, if by the end of the stream for some reason things free up for you, you're welcome to click that link and jump on. But I am not a fan of the Five Guys fries. As a matter of fact, when I used to have lunch every Friday with some friends of mine, we would, take turns on who picked the restaurant. And when people pick Five Guys, I would drive through another restaurant, pick up the food, and then go to Five Guys and eat that food in the Five Guys restaurant. So it might have been slightly rude, but I really like French fries, and I really didn't want to eat Five Guys French fries. Never had Five Guys, so you guys can talk about them. Well, some people really like the burgers. I think the burgers are fine, but I didn't think they were necessarily super special, but I'm probably not a good one to ask. I'm kind of willing to eat uh, kids made for or food made for small children. I always joke that I eat like an 8-year-old, and so maybe I'm not a good connoisseur of good burgers and whatnot. But the fries I'm willing to go to task on. I don't think the Five Guys fries are very good. Hey CK, what's up? Good to see you here today. So maybe you went to a bad location. Every time I've had them, they were perfectly country. That is an absolute possibility, Zumi. Maybe I just went to the wrong place. I think how many locations have I been to? You know, I can't think of multiple locations that I've been to. I can only think of the one that I've been to in Wichita. So maybe that would be true. Maybe I need to give it another try. That'd probably be worth it. Zumi, if you live close, you and I maybe should have got together and went and tried some French fries together at, uh, at the old Five Guys. So, next chapter in our book, How to Change Minds, and the chapter is called "The Truth is Tribal." The truth is tribal. So I've been kind of talking about how I think um, what what causes you to change your mind tends to be heavily involved with emotions. I keep using that word all the time. And another aspect of it that this particular chapter talks about is how it does seem like what we think is true is based on what our social group, what our friends think is true as well. For example, let's say you're really pro gun. Your family's really pro gun. All your friends are really pro gun. Everybody thinks that everybody should own 25 guns. And this just, makes the world a better place when we all own 8 million guns. Um, and let's just say you're trying to decide if you still think that's true. If you would decide that you don't think it's true, that you think guns are bad, what would that do to you and your social circle? Well, in some ways, you would think nothing. If you own 0 guns and everyone else around you own 25 guns, is it really gonna matter? Nope, it's not. Most people that own guns don't shoot them very often. They just keep them in a safe or whatever. It's not like, you go out gun firing all the time. Theoretically, it wouldn't matter in the big picture of your day-to-day life. It shouldn't matter, but it does super matter what you believe about it. And the reason that this chapter argues it really, really matters what you believe about guns is because it signals your loyalty to the group. You're signaling, hey, I'm trustworthy. Hey, I'm one of you. And then once you've signaled correctly, everyone else agrees you can be trusted about all these other things. Like, oh yeah, good. Ooh, you're one of us. You're one of the crew. And therefore, all is well. And so, for you personally, if you change your mind about guns, what will happen? The only thing that will happen is that your social group will trust you less. Why would you ever change your mind about that? Why would it be worth it to you to suddenly say, I think that uh I think that guns are bad and everyone suddenly doesn't like you? Why would you put yourself through that? Why would you even consider that? It doesn't matter whether you own them or not. It's not probably not going to affect you. You want to send a social signal to everyone around you, because you want to show that you're one of the team. You want to show that you're aligned with your community's moral framework alone. So therefore, if you want to change your mind, someone's mind about something, what you need to do is not just hammer them with facts. You hit them with the emotions, but you also have to provide them with a friend group, with a community that they know they're safely going to be able to move to. Hello, NetTube user. Good to see you here. He mentions in Florida, there's a Five Guys every 10 miles. I actually currently am in Florida. I'm in Navarre, Florida, and I have seen a Five Guys here. So maybe I should go to that Five Guys. I don't know. Um, the one I regularly went to is in Port St. Lucie, I guess, and that was when I was living in Florida. The fries there were great. So I'm in Navarre. I think there's a Five Guys relatively close. Maybe I need to give it a shot. Um, yeah, as far as guns go, there should be licensing restrictions, tests, so on and so forth, and gun insurance is a must. So yeah, there's these different arguments about what we should allow as far as guns. But this chapter is basically saying part of what kind of emotionally needs to click for someone to get them to change their mind about it is that they're going to need a new set of friends to go to in order to convince themselves that they should move. And if they know all that changing their mind will do is just it'll just isolate themselves. They're not going to do it. I laugh because I'm getting heat here. Only losers don't like Five Guys fries. I am in the loser camp over here. I am happily the leader of the losers that do not like Five Guys fries. So I'm a part of it. I don't even recognize these places. I come from a province that brought the world McCain's fries. I don't know what McCain's fries are, and I've grown my own spuds. My favorite burger place is a chain called Harvey's. I don't recall ever eating at Harvey's. Is this in Canada or some part of the U.S. I haven't spent any time in? I've traveled quite a bit, but I didn't recognize any of those things. So, do some of us might remember an earlier chapter where we talked about this truther that the guy mentions in the book that changed his mind about 9/11. So they went and took all these people to uh that were 9/11 truthers. They said it was an inside job or whatever. I'm not super familiar with all the conspiracies around 9/11. And they decided to take these people, show them, have them meet all these scientists and show them all the evidence of why it wasn't an inside job. And this one guy changed his mind. And so they were trying to figure out why this guy seemed to change his mind. He was really kind of famous within the conspiracy community. As a matter of fact, kind of what launched him was he was on Alex Jones at one point. He called in, and Alex Jones gave him all these props. And so I mean, kinda he's an interesting story. He, like, went to college, he's a philosophy major, he got a job as, I don't know, working in a bank or something like that, and then he's just kinda lonely and, didn't feel like his life was going that great, and then he kinda went down this, rabbit hole of the 9/11 thing, and then he, made a video, and that video got a lot of, you know, traction and a lot of excitement. People really liked his truther video. Then he eventually did something that got him on Alex Jones, and then his video presence grew as far as his YouTube channel. He eventually quit his job or changed, whatever. He didn't have to do any other work besides the YouTube channel. And you go, boom, he's like full in. He's like, Jared at this point, for the flat earther, former flat earther Jared. You say, so why did he give it up then? Well, he had this. Eventually, he started this secondary group. He had, I forget, it was something kind of weird. They were some group that did a lot of like charity work and things like that. It seemed kind of like a spiritual related group, not a Christian group, but kind of spiritual related group. And he sort of had them in parallel. And so because he had them in parallel, um, he said it was easier for him to quit the 9/11 stuff because he had like this new group of friends, and he was able to sort of lean on them as well. Oh, 10 hours, no problem. We'll just meet for lunch, We'll both leave at 7 a.m. and have lunch together, no problem. Bruce Wayne, Yerba Mate talks. What do you want me to change your mind about? You're welcome to change my mind about anything. I think I made a list in the description. Israel, Palestine. I'm pro single payer. As far as healthcare, I think modern monetary theory explains economics better than other theories. If you don't know what any of those things are and you want me to kind of explain them to see if you disagree or agree with me, you're welcome to. But yeah, th- Bruce, don't be afraid to throw out a few topics in the chat, and I can tell you roughly what I think about them, and we can argue. I mean, I'd love to argue about basketball as well, and we could argue, debate about that. I haven't met a lot of basketball fans in the Yerba Mate world, so I'm thinking that's not probably going to be one. But I do personally love the NBA. So this guy had a parallel track, and he had this other group of friends that he was able to make because he was able to have this other uh, um, group of friends. He decided to be able to change his mind, and his whole world didn't crash down. And you go, well, why would your whole world crash down? I'd like you to think about this. I think sometimes we think our whole world is really big. That there's all these people that we could be friends with. But if we think about our day-to-day lives, how many people are you really close friends with? How many people do you really talk to regularly? Like it, if you start counting, you might go, okay, well, family that I have that live in my house with me. Some of us might not have many. Some people just don't have anybody. They live by themselves, so you might just a couple there. Okay, well, my extended family, some of them maybe I'm close to. If you have parents or people like that around, maybe you're close to them. That could add some more. Maybe some siblings if you have any of those. But your cousins, you might not ever see them. It doesn't matter whether that they're not important. And then maybe you just have a few close friends. I mean, I don't think that number gets over 10 that easily. 10, 15 people that you're like close friends with. And then if you would alienate those 10 people, who do you have? You know, nobody wants to get up in the morning and go finish work or whatever, and then have no friends to talk to or whatnot. And it could be even simpler than that. You could go to like one online community and have one set of beliefs, signal, hey, I kind of agree with you guys, signal, 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 everyone's good, everyone's like you. And then heck, the next night you could go to a different one, log in with a different username and, kind of pretend something else. But you're going to have these beliefs, or at least claim to have them, in order to signal to other people, you're okay. You're one of the group. You can be trusted, right? NetTube user says, in my case, only two. To be honest, that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, I think that's an honest answer. I think it's pretty hard to get over 10. I mean, I would have to. I mean, maybe someone could jump on and talk about how they think it's more than 10, but boy, I don't think it's usually more than 10. And online is kind of tough, right? Because we jump online, we have friends or people we like to hang out with and chat with, but it's difficult, like if we get really busy in our IRL lives, maybe we can't jump on for a long time. And, so there's people that we're kind of friends with who we see quite a bit, and then boom, we don't see them. Even like me and Max and Issa, we're all friends, but there's sometimes I get busy and things are happening and I don't see them always. So, um, who are the people that we, super regularly see? It's not that many. Yeah, net 10 would be amazing and rare. You may be right. Maybe 10 is rare. Maybe my number I picked was even too generous. It's not possible for one person to have more than around 10 close friends because of how our brain works. Yeah, close friends for sure. Um, but just not super close friends, even just like a fairly casual social circle of people you're kind of friends with, but not super close to. I'm not sure how easy that is to get over 10, you know? I am the kind of guy that likes to just have lunch with people, oh yeah, let's have lunch. I got to eat lunch anyway. So, let's do it together and kind of be friends. And even when I lived in Kansas for a long time and, tried to get a whole bunch of people that would kind of go to lunch regularly, it wasn't that easy. It wasn't that, you know, simple to just have a bunch of people to feel like you have a bunch of friends. I mean, I suppose famous people have a bunch of people who know who they are. Um, but I mean, I don't know. Being famous is probably like a whole different ball of wax because if you change your mind about something and the reason you become famous, it hurts the reason you become famous. You're not going to want to change your mind about stuff. I think Will Duffy one time said the problem with writing a book is it means you can like never change your mind about something, and I empathize with that because you write this book, people buy your book, people follow your book, and then what you're one day supposed to say, oh yeah, all that book thing that you paid for and that you followed, yeah, that was a bunch of baloney, right? It is going to be really really hard to move off of that. I meet with a bunch of friends every Wednesday. Yeah, I've been playing cards on Wednesday. So last night I did play cards. I got home from my work trip and went straight to playing cards pretty much, and that was fun. They're a group of friends, and what's for me, it's interesting. I just recently met all these people, like within like the last month or two. And so when you sit down at the table, and any sort of political discussion comes up, you have to make a decision. How are you gonna signal? How are you gonna tell them that you're like a trustworthy person? So, I live in Florida. Is my first words gonna be something like, "That Mondani guy's great." You guys looking forward to that Mondani guy in New York for mayor? You guys liking him? Boy, that would be a risky take. That'd be a risky take whether you believed it or not, right? Like, boy, that'd be a pretty risky thing. Um, so what are you gonna signal with? Well, you start out with college football. That's probably a safe one, right? Okay, let's do some college football, and if they all love college football and they start talking about it, you know what you might start doing? You might start watching college football. And then suddenly 3 months later, you like college football suddenly. Why? Because all these friends that maybe you met, right? So when you sit down to this new group, I'm feeling it like, do I need to get into poker now? Do I need to read poker books on how to play poker the best way? Well, 3 months ago, I didn't care at all about poker or the best way to play poker, and suddenly now am I gonna really, really care about it and, like, have it be this super important thing in my life because all these new friends that I have are into poker? You can see how the social element becomes the truth this to us. We almost like our friends and who we're close to determine what the truth is. I mean, that it, it's scary, but in some ways it makes complete sense. If you think about like what helps us function as a group together so we can survive, give each other food, work to work together and so on and so forth. Um, we got to be able to work together. We have to be a cohesive unit. And therefore, like molding the truth around remaining friends together and having the cohesive unit. It it does seem like it makes sense that this thing can happen. All right, my headphones just turned off. When I only use my mic for like too long, my headphones turn off, which means someone needs to jump on and try to convince me of something here. Is there anything we can discuss? Anything we can argue about? Um, maybe we could discuss the Israel-Palestine situation. Maybe we could discuss something else. I hate that. When it happens, there's so many interesting things to talk about besides politics. After 30 minutes or so, it's pretty toxic. Life's hard enough. We need good vibes sometimes. Yeah, the politics are really, really tricky. And nowadays, it's very, very interesting. People will send out a politic signal, and you've got to decide how you're going to respond to that. Like someone will talk about maybe their job or work, and they'll say, "Yeah, I lost my job or whatever," and someone might start going, um, someone might start going, "Oh, yeah, well, it's all those immigrants that are causing that." And then boom. You gotta decide. Are you gonna, like, signal, "Hey, yeah, it is those stupid immigrants," or are you gonna say, "Oh, I don't really think that's it." It is like game on. Now, maybe in a table of 10 people, you could just keep your mouth shut and try to signal nothing, and you're good to go. But otherwise, it can be difficult. Uh, Bruce says if we start talking about politics, we keep it civil, known people for years. Yeah, this friend group you've had for years is really, really important. So, Bruce, if you think about it, maybe you want to come on and chat about it. Try to imagine what you could say that would signal to your group you're not trustworthy anymore. You're not one of the guys. Now, maybe you've been friends with these people, guys or girls. You've been friends with these people for so long that it might be hard for you to think of what that would be. There's probably something. Like if you suddenly changed your mind and said, you know, I really think beating up children is fine. I it's no big deal. I don't think it's a problem. Would that be a signal to your group? Would that be enough for your group to be like, "Ooh, old Brucey there, not sure we trust him anymore," right? Not sure that's something we wanna roll with. So anyway, I think the group dynamic, that's kind of a silly extreme example, but the group dynamic is a pretty big deal, to sort of, shape our truth. So anyway, if anyone wants to jump on, chit chat about something, we could kind of get arguing about. Let me look up some. I did create a list of topics of things that we could possibly debate. Let me see here. I think I put them in the description. Modern monetary theory, Israel Palestine. I'm a little more pro Israel. Oh, we could argue about Palestine and Israel. I think Israel should never take that deal. I don't know why Israel took the deal. Unless they're just taking it in order to start the war again or hope the war starts again. Um, because they just wanted they wanted the hostages back. I'm for single payer healthcare. That basically just means that there's different basically single payer is a way of saying there's different versions of this, but it's something more like Canada or Europe or whatever that the government's in charge of health care paying. Basically, the argument goes something like the reason healthcare is always going to get way more expensive is because of the lack of the inelasticity of demand. So what I mean by that is how much are you willing to pay for a bicycle? You willing to pay $10? Sure, you'll pay $10. You want a bicycle. Pay 20, sure. You'll pay 100 maybe. 200, I don't know if it's a fancy enough bike. sure there's reasons. I suppose you'll pay 1,000 if you're really into it and it's the right kind of bike or whatever. But if it's 100,000, at some point you're going to say, no, I'm never going to pay for that, right? Like I'm not going to pay for that. And so therefore, whoever makes the bicycles eventually goes, okay, well, we're only going to price the cost of bicycles at the level at which people are willing to buy it. That's it, right? Like so we can price as much as we can get. That's the price, as much as we can get. But at some point, people won't pay for it anymore. The problem with healthcare is how much are you willing to pay for cancer treatment for your loved one? Are you willing to pay $1,000? Yeah, sure. $10,000? Yeah, sure. $1 million? You will pay every last dollar. You might beg and plead and try to get money from everybody else. Hey, maybe you'll even like rob other people to get enough money for the cancer treatment. So you say, so what price should the healthcare system make cancer treatment? Well, in a normal sort of capitalistic way, the answer is they should charge us absolutely as much as they could get. And as much as they could get is like all of your money. And so therefore, if you say, okay, that doesn't work very well in sort of a free market situation, there's like a total inelasticity demand. People are willing to pay as much as it takes. So therefore, we need to have the government basically be the one that pays for this. You might even be able to have private hospitals and the government just writes the checks to pay them. Sometimes there's government run hospitals, whatever. But you're basically just saying this is a place where the market doesn't work. So if you want to argue about that, come on in. I think also electric cars are a better long-term solution than gas-powered vehicles. I think for the long term, they are absolutely better. They're already better in most situations, and I think that they're absolutely um, um, uh, going to be better. Azumi says free markets and healthcare do not mix. I agree. That's a very good way to summarize what I think. Um, To abuser says, by the way, generally I impose my conditions when I invite people over to my house. 5 to 10 minutes of politics, then we stop. We talk about photography, video games, movie, books, etc. That's very, very interesting. You actually say how long you're willing to talk about politics. Yeah, that might be needed with a particular group. Maybe that's worth doing to actually do it. Obviously, you've been buddies with a whole bunch of people a long time, like uh, that uh, someone else mentioned earlier, it could be fine that you can talk politics and never really bothers anybody. Yeah, so I'm a huge electric car person. I also think that renewables are going to overtake fossil fuels, and fossil fuels are dead. It doesn't matter. Free market's going to destroy fossil fuels. If you want to come argue with me about that, you're welcome to. And I really care about this one, though I'm not a scientific expert. Human caused climate change is real and poses a serious global threat. So I'm a big human caused climate change person. You're welcome to come and argue with me about that as well. I don't know. Maybe I need some more hot takes, get people fired up to come in and try to change my mind about something. So we are 30 minutes in. I'm going to give us about 2 more minutes if anybody wants to jump on. Otherwise, I think I'm going to gonna go ahead and wrap up. I do have to be back to work in an hour, so I always have work I can do. I think I got a new client I got to start working with, so I'm going to start jumping on that. Thanks so much for joining the stream today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all the socials. Do my best Max impression where you go out somewhere and stand on a corner or however he says that and yell loudly, subscribe to subscribe to Sherbamate Talks. Uh, so go ahead and do that. Nothing to disagree with you. Well, we gotta work on that. Surely we can find something that we disagree on. Maybe I need to come up with like some real pro-American stance that I have, and maybe we could argue about that at some point. So anyway, so CK, do all the social things, like and subscribe to Sheriff Amate Talks. You probably remember Max's line better than I do. Going Bruce, gonna jump in. There's always next week, Bruce. Jump in next week. We'll chit chat. That'll be great. If you're not at your computer today, I'm gonna get going for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Um, next week, if you think something that you want to debate. Otherwise, I'm really excited about next week's chapter. This week we talked about the truth being tribal, and the next week we talk about arguing. I like to argue, so I'm looking forward to next week's chapter, and we'll be covering that next week. Thank you everyone for being here, and we will see you later.